So while we still sit in the doldrums of November, before we get to December, I wanted to give you guys my 10 favorite 90s horror movies. What's up everybody, Nick here from the Lost River Drive-In, and tonight I'm going to give you my 10 favorite 90s horror movies. Now before I get into this list, I do not need to hear anybody try to tell me, oh well that movie's more of a thriller, that movie's more of suspense story. No. Horror elements, they're horror movies, accept it, let's move on with it. And number 10 is going to be The Sixth Sense. Now I'm not a huge M. Night Shyamalan fan. He's made some bangers, I can't deny it, and I don't root against the guy. I think his latter half of his career has been pretty weak, but I think he started off really great, and The Sixth Sense is a perfect example of that. I remember watching this movie for the first time, and I genuinely didn't know that, spoiler alert, Bruce Willis is dead. And when it, is revealed, it kind of blew my mind. But I specifically remember the scene in the school where you see like the hanging body. That messed me up as a kid. And then thinking about it from that kid's perspective, like if that were me, if I was seeing dead people like everywhere I went and like how that would impact me. So The Sixth Sense, although, like I said, yeah, it's probably more of like a mystery thriller, it's a horror movie. And The Sixth Sense is going to come in at number 10 on my list. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, I know this movie has a lot of fans and a lot of haters, and for good reason. It obviously erases a lot of people's favorite sequels, 3 and 4 specifically. It kind of brings it into the real world, and Heather Langenkamp is an actress, Nancy Thompson is just a character, and Freddy doesn't show up until over an hour into the movie. All of those things notwithstanding, which I do not have a problem with, the movie's great. Freddy's design is awesome in this movie. I love Demon Freddy. I really like Heather in this movie. I think this is by far and away her best performance in the series. I don't even think Dream Warriors holds a candle to it. And I think that while few and far between the moments with Freddy in this movie, I think there's a lot of great moments with Freddy. Specifically, his first appearance on screen and his introduction there is just so memorable. And like the Demon's Lair and everything, I just love all of that stuff. I understand that New Nightmare isn't everybody's favorite. It's an acquired taste, but it's a taste that I've liked for a really long time. So it's going to make it on my list at number 9. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Army of Darkness. Now, Army of Darkness is a movie that I unapologetically love. And that's not really a hot take because most people nowadays agree that this movie rocks. It doesn't rank as high in my top 10 of the 90s simply just because it's not really scary. It's super fun, it's zany, it's over the top, but it is missing a few things for Evil Dead for me that really make Evil Dead memorable. Having said that, Army of Darkness is a movie that stands on its own. It is truly its own kind of movie in that universe and in that franchise. It is funny, it's over the top. It's probably Bruce Campbell's best performance, honestly, I think, in this series. And I just think that Army of Darkness is one of those movies where it's an experience. It's like a roller coaster ride. And you're either in for it or you're not. And as I said in a video I did a couple days ago, you are either laughing at it because you think, oh my God, this is so dumb, or you're going, this is so dumb, I love it. And no matter where you fall on the spectrum there, I love this movie. And it's going to make it at number 8 on my list. Coming in at number 7 is going to be House on Haunted Hill. Now, I have talked about this movie recently, specifically in October, because this is a yearly watch for me in October. The first time I saw this movie as a kid, I was probably like 7, not long after the movie came out, and I remember it terrified me. I mean, it scared the crap out of me. Everything having to do with the basement, that is practically a maze, just stuck with me. Like, could not get it out of my head. Straight up nightmare fuel. And even as an adult, it's like this wild maze underground that is just like never ending and shit's popping up everywhere and it's just wild. But aside from that, the movie just has a truly great look to it. It's got a lot of great actors in it. It's really memorable. It's freaky as hell. And I just think that the setting itself alone it just makes this movie so memorable. The 90s had a lot of crappy movies. We can't even lie. It was not horror's golden age. But there are some bangers hidden in there, and House on Haunted Hill is one of them. Number 6 is going to be Arachnophobia. Still, to date, one of the only movies in the world that can scare me still as an almost 30-year-old. Now, I'll say, I understand it's not really straight up horror. There's a lot of comedy. It's really kind of a dark comedy if you actually look at it. But no, nothing about the antagonist of this movie is funny to me. I'm arachnophobic. I hate spiders. And the idea of spiders with a bloodlust that just genuinely want to bite you and kill you because... Oh, and not to mention they look like your common like household wolf spider, so it's like realistic. It's not eight-legged freaks type where it's kind of like, oh, well, that's not real. No, these look real. This movie makes me check behind the toilet seat. This movie makes me scared still to this day to close my eyes fully when I'm washing my hair out in the shower. This movie resonated with me. It affected me so deeply from an early age that like I would be remiss if I didn't put this on my list. Whether you consider this a straight up horror movie or not, as someone that's scared of spiders, this is a horror movie and it's a damn scary one. Coming in at number 5 is going to be an all-timer. And this is the movie I was specifically referencing when I said, please do not argue about whether this is horror or not, because people will say this movie is not a horror movie. And it is. Silence of the Lambs. Look, forget about Jodie Foster's incredible performance. And forget about Anthony Hopkins' incredible performance. This movie is just all that in a bag of chips. It's a mystery. It's a thriller. It's genuinely unsettling. It is enthralling. It is interesting. It makes you question things. It makes you ask so many questions. And by the time you get to the end of the movie, you're left speechless and also wanting more. Now, we got some sequels as the years went on, and we got a prequel. The prequel, Red Dragon, which I really, really enjoyed. Hannibal is okay. Kind of veered a little bit too into the slasher elements and less into the psychological, but I still like Hannibal. But Silence of the Lambs is truly an all-timer movie. Like, if you're doing a top 10 list of 90s horror films and you don't put the Silence of the Lambs on the list, I just feel like it's blasphemy. Like, I really, really do. I understand it might be more slow moving and it might not be for everybody. But you cannot watch this movie and walk away with anything other than saying, like, that's damn good. Like, that is really, really solid from start to finish. And that's what this movie is. So, starting off the top 5, Silence of the Lambs, it's a banger. You can't go wrong. Coming in at number 4 is going to be The Blair Witch Project. Now, I've seen recently this argument has kind of popped up online of people saying like, oh, come on, like not many people actually thought it was real. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. I vividly remember when this movie came out on home video to rent at Blockbuster. I remember it. I remember the posters up at my Blockbuster all over the wall. I remember the website. I remember talking to my buddy Tommy about this movie before we actually were able to get our hands on it and watch it. I can't remember if we found it online or if we rented it. But I remember all of us believing this was real. Now, granted, I was a little kid, so I'm a lot more gullible. But it was marketed as such. Like, you were supposed to believe it. If you were an adult with better critical thinking skills and, you know, access to the internet, you would have been able to go, okay, yeah, bullshit. But for me, no, I thought it was real. And when we watched this movie for the first time in his basement, an unfinished basement, so it's already creepy. There's a crawl space where we swear there was a demon up there anyway. It was always creeping, watching us. I know there was a demon in that crawl space, okay? And I will not rest until I get answers for that. I'm just going to say. But I remember watching this movie and it terrified us. It terrified us like deeply. And then we went on this whole like goose chase of like looking up answers online. And that's when we found out it wasn't real. And it definitely changed like how scared we were of the movie. But I cannot tell you the fear that went through my body as a child. That specific scene when they're in the tent and they grab the camera and you're hearing rustling outside and then you hear, you know, the kids like giggling and they just run out of the tent, scared the shit out of me. So yeah, The Blair Witch Project, the granddaddy of found footage horror, it's gotta be here. Coming in at number 3, and it's probably gonna surprise some of you guys because some of you probably thought it would be number 1. It's not. Scream. I love Scream. Scream is a movie that was necessary when it came out. It kind of revitalized slasher horror films with giving them like a new flair, a new flavor that we hadn't seen before. You know, the meta, self-aware, parroting itself, but just also kind of breaking new ground. And Scream is iconic. It's a classic for all of those reasons. I could have put Scream 2 on this list and, you know, but I didn't want to do sequels to a movie I was already going to have on here. You know, if like, truth be told, Scream 2 would probably make this list for me too because I love that movie. But I'm just trying to be fair for some like differences here and variety. Scream. Scream is my favorite Scream movie. It is everything I already said it is. It was super important to the genre, especially the subgenre of slasher films. I think that the fact that this turned into a long-running franchise, though it was mocking all of those, is just like chef's kiss, icing on the cake. And it's a great franchise. I absolutely love it. And Ghostface is damn near getting up there to challenge the top three. Like, really, not for me, but in a lot of people's eyes, like, Ghostface is their favorite, and I totally understand why. I think this movie just was so culturally important, and it was a phenomenon, and still, to this day, damn near 30 years later, it is still that important and that relevant. They come out with a sequel and it does gangbusters at the box office and has everybody talking on social media. And that is the sign of a hit and a movie that deserves to be on a top 10 90s horror movie list. Coming in at number 2 is going to be my favorite out of this franchise, and that is Child's Play 2. Now, I love Chucky. I have always loved Chucky, even with Chucky's warts. I'd probably take Chucky over Jason. And I'm dead serious there, and I have no shame in saying that. Chucky is such a fun, interesting character, and I think Child's Play 2 was when this franchise was at its best. Alex Vincent does a much better job in this movie. He was a couple years older, and it really shows. He can act a little bit better. I love Christina Lis as Kyle, and I absolutely love their relationship. It is so believable, it's so organic, and you feel for both of them. I think that Chucky is still freaky enough and creepy enough in this movie to where it does play more like a horror movie. You start to get more one-liners from Chucky. You see more Chucky than you saw in the first movie, and you get some great, memorable scenes and kills in this movie. Miss Kettlewell, him putting the knife into his stump in the factory. The factory, the entire climax, my buddy Christian would tell you that was hell for him. Like, that's his idea of hell. That factory and the ending of Child's Play 2, which is high praise. I just think that this is the perfect formula for Child's Play. Now, I love Bride of Chucky, and I love Child's Play and Child's Play 3 and Curse of Chucky. They all do things that are great for the character and the franchise. But I truly think Child's Play 2 walks the fine line the best of all the Child's Play movies. And for that, it has to come in at number 2 on my list. But it's not number 1. As much as I love that movie and I love that franchise, it's not number 1. Number 1 is a movie that won't surprise some of you if you've been following me a long time. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Enjoy this number 1. I hope this isn't a hot take, but Candyman. Candyman is absolutely, unequivocally my favorite 90s horror film, and for damn good reason. But let me try to be quick with this. First of all, the music by Philip Glass is absolutely incredible. I listen to this score year-round, any time of year, specifically in the winter more because it's a kind of, I don't know, it just has that vibe to it. It's an incredible score. Absolutely incredible score. I think that the movie is acted brilliantly. Obviously, Tony Todd in the titular role of Daniel Robitaille, Candyman, he's so memorable. You know, you don't really notice while you're watching the movie, but after the fact, you go, wow, he really doesn't have that much screen time. But you remember him so much. And why is that? Because every moment he's on screen, it is incredibly memorable. I think that the look of this movie, the pace of this movie, the tragedy that is this movie, Daniel Robitaille's story, Helen's story, I think all of it is just incredible. I think the social commentary, especially for the time, was kind of revolutionary and really relevant and still is relevant. I think that Candyman was a movie that just came out at the perfect time, that was saying the perfect things the right way. And Candyman is absolutely my favorite 90s horror film, and it will never be supplanted. As much as I love Child's Play 2 and Scream, this is absolutely my number one. So I hope that's not too much of a hot take, but I'm kind of known for doing that. But I want to know what you guys think about my list, my top 10 90s horror movies. Did I miss one that you absolutely love and you cannot believe I missed it and you are going to rake me over the coals for it? Did I name one that you absolutely loved that you said, hey, this movie doesn't get enough love. Thank you for mentioning it. Discuss all of that and more down below in the comment section. Make sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It's right down there. Just takes a minute. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.